Good evening, all. I'm very excited to welcome our special guest for today's episode, Rosie Harriott, the
Hi.
thoughtful rebel.
Hi there.
Hiya, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
Really good. I've done
Mhm.
very little, but that's been really nice. It's a little bit misty and still here in Yorkshire. So, yeah, I've just stayed in and cooked and relaxed, really.
Lovely. That's the way
Yeah,
to spend the weekend, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, Rosie, welcome to I'mPossible Conversation.
Thank you for
Let's
having me.
let's start our conversation with who is Rosie and what matters to you most.
Okay, so I'm Rosie. I'm 51 and I live in Huddersfield, Yorkshire. I'm from Yorkshire and I was born into a big family. I'm the youngest of five, and what matters to me is the most is probably creativity. I think I can't go a day without creativity, whether it's cooking or drawing or taking photos, or it doesn't have to be, even putting makeup onto me is creative. Do you know what I mean? Creativity is the most important thing to me, and that was given to me by my mum because she was a very creative person. She was brought she went through the war, so therefore she'd always had a sort of make do and mend type attitude. So she was a dressmaker, and and a baker, and she grew flowers, and she was so creative. So that's where I get it from, really.
So, you learned loads from your mom, and that's why you continued what she was doing. Because
Yeah,
she,
so yeah, she taught me how to sew, and she would make all my clothes as well. And so, really, I would say I never wanted to. I can't remember ever wanting to be anything else apart from a fashion designer. At definitely 11, I decided that's what I wanted to do. At sort of 13, 14, me and my friend used to watch Top of the Pops, and we would then we'd see what people were wearing, and we go to the local market and buy fabrics and make things. Yeah, so that's probably the early sort of, well, not the earliest memory, but that was definitely when I decided that's what I wanted to do for a career. So I went to. They didn't really know what to do with me at school because people were textile designers, but not fashion designers, or certainly not from where I was from. And so I went to a college just outside London and studied quite a varied course. I did fashion, textiles, jewellery making. I did millinery. I did printmaking, surface pattern, knitwear, the whole thing. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that's so. I've probably chose that course because I'm a bit of a magpie when it comes. I'm very curious about all sorts of creativity, and I think that stayed with me through my whole career and life, really. Yeah.
so you you call yourself thoughtful rebel, and that's so like that made me really really curious about you. And
Okay.
tell me about it. Where did that name come from? Like, where did you find it? Like,
Um. So that was the rebrand of my business, which I'm currently going through and going to launch it early next year. And I've been freelance for 15 years. And the Thoughtful Rebel came to me probably last year. I'd Oh, I think I've always been a little bit of a rebel in terms of quiet rebel, I'd say. So I think when I went to college, I used to go dancing in a field, quite rightly or wrongly, in the middle of the night. In my 30s, that's when I decided to go freelance. When I went freelance, I was actually pregnant. I'd been made redundant, which felt like a bit of a, well, I didn't really have an option, but that felt a bit rebellious. And then in 2016, I sort of like sort of had to change my life. Really, I was really quite depressed. I wasn't happy at all with things, and but at 46, that felt like quite a rebellious thing to do, if you know what I mean, or definitely rebelling against what maybe I thought I should be doing. Yeah, definitely. And then more recently, in terms of rebellion, I've always worked as a designer for big corporate companies. So UK high street, high street abroad, and they are companies that are really, in my opinion, just looking at the money. They've always sort of that's been the reason for producing goods, and I'm kind of rebelling against that now, that I really want to work with companies that want to give back. But that's been quite a journey in itself, because that's quite hard to do. I've got to think about how I position myself and how I sort of reach my new audience, type of thing. The thoughtful bit is really because I've always been an overthinker, always. So, and I feel like I've probably been in quite deep thought since maybe 2016, because I started a journey of, I was really quite low, and I started decided I needed to change my life. Decided I needed to fight what I now realise now was sort of a depression. And my friends sort of my friends noticed at that point and said, why don't you go to the doctors, see what they can give you, and whilst I don't judge anybody for taking antidepressants, there was just something about it that I couldn't do. So I decided to go to the gym and stop drinking as much. And I really got into exercise in a big way because I saw the results. So I started working with a personal trainer one-to-one, which was really kind of like, I'm a working class girl, and that felt like what the celebrities do. But I decided that the money that I'd been spending on clothes and, things to sort of cover up my feelings of not feeling so good, I'd put that money towards working with a coach one-to-one. And although I'd exercised in the past before, the results that I saw were just amazing, and how fast it changed. And I kind of really got into the whole, I'd had 2 children, and so I couldn't remember where my waist was. My waist came back, and it gave me huge confidence. So much so, it gave me the confidence to decide that I didn't want to be in the marriage that I'd been in for 25 years, a relationship 25 years, which, again, that felt quite rebellious because, I'm from a family where you get on with life, just put up and get on with it kind of thing, make the best of what you've got. So, yeah, all these things since then have felt, it's always been a sort of feeling of what I should do and what I really feel I need to do. Because I think sometimes we do what we feel we should do, instead of what we really deep down want or need to do.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, it really does make sense. So it started with your personal trainer. Because you started exercising and found your new side of like self-discovery journey started with personal trainer. And since
Absolutely,
then, so since then, where about are you now?
Oh, well, so it didn't sort of, it was quite a long time for me. It probably took, I don't know. So I started personal training, and I'm the type of person that's curious about everything. So I want to understand, why am I doing all these step ups? Why? I used to have to run up. It's an old mill that the gym that I go to, it's a small gym, and they didn't have like a stepping machine. So he made me run up and down the mill stairs, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I'm just like, why are we doing this? And he's like, because the biggest muscle in your body is your thigh, and that's what burns the. So I really got into the sort of science behind it. And when I started reading into it, I realised that weight training was definitely the way to change the shape of my body. So I decided I wanted to go into those sweaty. Well, if I was going to do weight training, I had to go into the sweaty gym, weight training room where the men hang out, which frightened the life out of me because I thought, oh, I look stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. So I specifically then looked for a strength trainer so that I could do it properly. I'd read a book and I was gonna, use this book to do it, but I thought, no, I'll go and get. So I did that. So the journey with exercise was sort of quite a long one in terms of finding what worked, and that was quite revolutionary because I felt like I'd been on a diet since probably a teenager. I was the girl who was always last at cross country. I didn't really like exercise, all that kind of thing, and it kind of changed my whole mindset about I still to this day don't jump out of bed and go, oh, let's go to the gym. It's still hard. It never gets, when you hear people saying, oh, I love doing this, I love that. Well, yeah, that's cool, but it's the afterburn effect. It's sort of like when I get out of bed, I'm like, I really don't want to do this. I really don't. But I know that I think to myself, but remember how good you're going to feel afterwards. Yeah. So it's this mindset about how you approach things that's really changed. And then going through my divorce, I still had bouts of depression, and I had counselling, and that was helpful. Obviously it was going to be helpful, but it still didn't take away this sort of deep sadness that I had, really. And I was always questioning why kind of thing. I thought, well, I've done the divorce, so what's wrong now, kind of thing, I was constantly searching for the answers, I guess. I mean, my dad passed away when I was 6, and I always felt like I'd never got over that. So the counselling did help a little, but I still felt there was something more. And I'd then started on a bit of a journey in sort of more alternative therapy. So I went to Reiki. Now, I had Reiki before in the past when my mum passed away, and the lady that the healer, that the Reiki healer that I go to, is also a spirit guide, and she always gave me comfort in that my mum was there looking over me, and so I went back to her, and she really set me on this little path of what people might consider to be really sort of woo-woo stuff. So she suggested I use crystals, and at that point, I was like, do you know what? I'll try anything to try and make me just lift my spirits, keep me going. And I remember she told me to, she said, look up smudging, smudge the house. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's this like, you know, you're clearing the air with, you burn either sage or other, I use sage. And she's, because we were living in the same house at the time, going through the divorce, there was just a
Is it
real
like about the
bad
energy
energy.
in the house?
Yeah, so it was the energy. And so I did that. And, you know, these are all really subtle things. But as I've sort of got deeper into that side of things, I've realised that everything's so connected. So meditation, I'd tried meditation before and I just thought, oh, what am I doing? I just don't get this. I don't know what I'm doing. But then I came across this one particular, I think I've realised that it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's the person that you meet along the way to show you the way. Sometimes I think they sometimes say when the
Students ready,
when the student's ready, the person will appear, the teacher will appear. And I really feel that. So lots of things have happened in that way. And I can't remember what my train of thought's gone a little bit now. I was talking about the Reiki and the smudging and the meditation. Yeah, so the meditation, I came across this one guy on Insight Timer, and he did this like 30-day course for beginners who'd never done meditation. And again, he explained the reasons behind meditation, and he talked about the science behind it. So I've learned that I'm a very much I really want to understand. Don't just tell me what to do. I want to understand it as well.
Yeah.
Which is very much like the personal training. And he was, you know, he talked about the fact that there'd been, you know, research done on people that have brain scans of people that had been meditating for 20 years and hadn't, and you know, it had reversed aging and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, yeah, just get on with it and do it. But he was, the other thing he said was, there's no right and wrong way to do it. You're not doing it wrong. And that was a bit of a, oh wow, okay, yeah. The fact that you just sat all laid down, because that was the other thing I was thinking, oh, I really don't want to sit cross-legged on the floor or on a hard chair, so I do it laying down. It doesn't matter. You're just taking that time out to think, or to still your mind, to just compose yourself. For 10 minutes a day, for 20 minutes a day. You might not do it every day, but you get back on it. And I've come now to realise that if there's, you know, if life's got in the way and I haven't managed to do it, then I do start feeling it. It's the same with exercise. If I go a little bit of a stretch without exercise, I can feel it. And sometimes it's not really obvious, but then I'll go, oh yeah, let's get back on. You know, it's this, all these sort of self-care things that are very subtle, but important. And so it's led me on to acupuncture. I go for acupuncture because I'm obviously of that age now of I'm trying to go through the menopause as naturally as possible. So I'm having sort of like preventative acupuncture sessions where I get calming and things like that. And I think, you know, a lot of people might be sat thinking, oh, well, you know, you must have a load of money. I haven't got a load of money, but I've decided that I'm investing in myself because I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not about money. It's about what your priority is, isn't it? Because like when you're younger, you go out, party, and the clothes and drink. That type of thing is like people choose them to make their priority.
Yeah.
But then it is priority for us to self-care. now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it was a priority for me because I could feel myself, you know, losing myself, if you know what I mean, because I was feeling so low. So that was my way of, investing money, frankly, on things that, you know, you might not. I don't really buy many clothes anymore. I buy things that maybe if I'm traveling, although we don't travel, I buy occasional things that I really make my heart sing, something quite special, not special money, but it might be something that's been handmade when I've been traveling abroad, or maybe it's something that someone personally makes for you, and I think that's where I see retail going. I think individual people making goods and people wanting to buy things from the maker rather than a retail shop or an online, you know, they really want to see the people behind the product. And I think that's definitely how I feel. I think that's the future. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about some times that was quite hard for you. What was the lessons you learned in that time?
The lessons I learned, that you have to really sort of sit with it a lot, actually, and it's quite easy to try and forget about it by, you know, having a glass of wine or a couple of glasses of wine instead of really sitting with that feeling of how you're feeling and trying to understand it. I started journaling, which a counsellor gave me that as a skill. So she'd say, you know, write whatever's ever on your mind. Write. It doesn't. Just write it 3 pages, and then rip it up, bin it, get rid of it, because it just releases it.
Yeah.
So I think it's that don't keep it in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know,
it's in a
sit
way
with it,
to
but
free in your mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not the type of person to sort of share my woes a lot, even with my sort of girlfriends and stuff. I kept it for quite a long time, but they actually noticed. So I think I've definitely learned tools, I guess. Find tools that, you know, I know that music always lifts me. So if I know that even if I'm having a bad day at work because I work from home, sometimes I'll just put some disco music on. I'll have a real dance around the office, and then that's great. That's it, done. And it lifts. I think it's like thinking about how your energy is, and it is, you can lift your energy if you try to find the ways that, you know, lift your energy. It might be reading a book, it might be reading, I don't read fiction, but it could be getting lost in fiction, or it could be, you know, a great walk in the park, a run or whatever. It doesn't have to be pumping weights at the gym, but it's like, it's getting that I've learned that all these things are a form of meditation, because you get out of your thoughts and you just release them. And there's lots of ways of doing that. Creativity is, I realised this in lockdown, that I thought, I'm going to get the paints out, I'm going to proper just paint nothing, you know, with no brief, no client, no nothing. And hours ago, and I've been thinking, wow, I've been lost in the moment, and that is really what meditation is, isn't it? You're lost in, you know, so I think that's what I've learned from it.
Yeah, it sounds like, because you've been in this self-discovery journey for and you know, like your self-awareness is quite high, and you know about yourself really, really well, because sitting down and thinking. So now you know how to raise your mood, how to raise your vibe, and understand and accept yourself.
Absolutely. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I would have just probably gone out and gone to the pub,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's like, that was my way of lifting the mood, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, it doesn't always work, or certainly not for a long time, and certainly not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of a temporary
Fix, yeah.
fix, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, because when you are in your thought, what's the question you ask from yourself?
When I'm in thought,
Yeah, because you self-discovering why is it? Yeah. What's the most?
sorry, say the question again.
So, what do you ask yourself the most? What question do you ask yourself when you want to go through something? So, do you
When I've got a
try
problem,
to,
you mean?
yeah, when you have a problem, would you like to, what's the better way? Because it's kind of a lesson for us to, because if
Ah,
something
right,
happens to
okay.
us, and what would, like, how would I exploit? Kind of a step by step, I guess. So, what's the first question would help me to sort out that?
I would say that I sit with a journal. I've got a journal, and
Mm-hmm.
I sit and just think, what is on your mind? Write it,
Mm-hmm.
and then say,
Mm-hmm.
what else is on your mind?
Mm-hmm.
What else? So get it out on your mind, and then write it freely and explore it. Because when I feel like when I'm journaling, and a couple of people have
Mm-hmm.
agreed with me when I've posted this type of thing on Instagram, when you're writing, it's almost like you're writing to that, you're writing to yourself, and it's sort of, you're slowing down. The fact of actually writing with a pen is slow anyway. I actually sometimes get a little candle, so it feels really nice and warm and cozy, and you almost have a little conversation with yourself when you're writing. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes by the end of that writing, those 3 pages seems to be the magic, or that's what I've 3 pages. At the end of it, you can often give yourself the encouragement or the advice or the uplift
Mm-hmm.
that you need. Because really, I don't know how you feel about this, but I always feel like, however somebody tries to give me advice, if I ask a friend for, really, you decide in the end, don't you? You've got it all within. You're the one
Mm-hmm.
that has to decide for yourself what's
Yeah.
the best action to take, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I would. And sometimes action as well. Sometimes, so for example, recently I've been pondering over where I'm going to live, because I've just sold my house, and I've been looking on Rightmove, but I've been fixed in that. And actually, what I really needed to do was, even if I didn't know where I wanted to live, just go and look at some houses, and then
Mm-hmm.
because you need to go through, you need to sort of set a little process out and do it, even if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't give you the results that you expected. It starts answering questions in your mind a bit, doesn't it? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Very good. So, what kind of advice would you give to your younger self now looking back?
Okay, so I have got a really specific.
Actually, can I just say one
Go
thing?
on, go on.
Because I remember, because I've been going through your Insta posts and
Yeah.
I just loved them. And one of them was about your mom and
Mm-hmm.
you. And yeah. So like your mom used to be quite, so I would say like maybe because the moms are quite strict when they are teenage daughters, and then like I would be like same to my daughter or something, like not in that respect your post was, but it's just we are different.
My mum was really strict with me. Is that what you mean? My mum was really strict with me, and but if I put it into context, my mum was born in the 1920s, and she was bringing up a teenager in the 1980s, and because she didn't have me until she was in the late 40s, and so when I look back now as an adult, I just think, oh my God, how did that ever work? We clashed so much, you know. It was my sister that explained to me about, you know, sex and stuff like that, not my mum, because it was like my mum was just like, just don't just as far as her concerned, you know, it just doesn't happen kind of thing. But that was just always going to be that way because we were just worlds apart in time and everything, you know. Just because of the nature of how the generations are, you know. In respect of what I would tell so I do this, I don't know whether this is answering your question, but there is actually a book that I can recommend, which is it's by Tara Moore, and it's called Playing Big. And in chapter 2, I was reading it quite recently, actually, and it talks, you've heard about your inner critic, the one that's always going, it kind of thing. Oh, you can't do that. Okay. Well, she talked about finding your inner mentor, and she actually takes you on a meditation to go into your future and sort of envisage who your future self is. And by doing that, when I did that, she almost spoke to me and sort of said, just be true to yourself, just be true to you, which is a real cliche, but just don't try and edit who you are, because as we spoke prior to this going live, that if you will always find the people who are your people by being true to yourself. And I think when you find those people, then that's what sort of makes your heart sing, isn't it, really? So I would say that to my younger self, don't try and edit who you are. And I think sometimes you don't know who you are, but you also, I think, your intuition, I think I've always that little voice in your mind, in your head, that sort of says something to you, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure, kind of thing. That is your intuition, and that is really what you should be guided by. And I definitely wasn't as a young woman, I guess, you know. I was thinking too externally instead of internal. Do you know what I mean? Listening to my own inner voice. Yeah,
of course, because we all been young and free.
yeah, and you just take on so much of what everybody else is doing around you, because that's you know, definitely.
Talking about intuition and stuff, and I remember you mentioned about something to do with moon cycle. Is that right? There's something to do with moon. I can't remember.
Yes. So I'm the person. So I'm the girl that has always read my horoscope every day for as long as I can remember. As a teenager, all through my life, and so I do remember that I was made redundant and fell pregnant, not on the same full moon, but it was definitely around the moons, and I always felt, right, okay. But then part again of this sort of journey, this sort of the last few years, I came across a an astrologer on Instagram, and she's from California, and she would do these moon ritual circle, on full and new moons in her community where she lived, probably with her girlfriends, just as a sort of thing to do. And she decided to take it. How could she take it online? And what she does is every full moon, every new moon, she for a few pounds sells these workbooks, and they are amazing. And she goes into all the feelings that you might be feeling around these particular moon around. So, for example, the Scorpio new moon coming this next, I think it's the 14th of November. It's a real, it's a time of change. It's quite a lot of energy around Scorpio. And I don't claim to know much about this, but I think what I'm saying is I now work with those workbooks, because what she does is on each workbook she'll ask you 5 or 6 journaling questions, and they're really good to get to, for me, to understand more about myself and what might be happening in my world that is in relation to the sort of power of the moon, the energy of the moon. And I also did probably about maybe 2 years ago, I paid for and again, it's just online. I tried to find out when I was born, the time I was born, because it's quite important to find out the time of your birth. And I got my moon scope done, my actual, and that has also given me a lot of insight into the moon and things like that. So I'm a Gemini, which I didn't realise. I'm a Gemini in my Sun, Moon and Mercury, which is quite a lot of Gemini. And that's been really quite interesting, but really I've become much more self-aware. And it also gives me a focus. Like, if you think about every month, the moon, it when we talk about having goals and things like that,
yeah,
well, this kind of helps to give you a little bit of focus on your feelings for that month, how you might be feeling, and I know it all sounds a little bit woo-woo, but
no, because I'm really, really interested.
Yeah, well,
it's like a completely new thing for me, because like the goals and stuff, that things is okay. And I am very aware of this energy, like vibe and the brain, plasticity, etc. But like when it comes like moon, and it's just I have no idea how, like,
well, the lady is called, if you're on, I think she's on Facebook as well. I'm pretty sure she's on, but it's called Spirit Daughter, and she is so. She explains it so well, and she's, her energy and everything is so lovely. And the other thing I was going to say was, as a business owner now, or working for myself, I really sort of struggled with coaches saying, make this big plan, get a spreadsheet out, and I was like, oh, really? And then so I'd do it, but then I'd kind of like forget the spreadsheet, and then it just didn't feel right to me. So what I do now is I have a weekly business journal session. So I'll do my 3 pages, but it will be, how did I feel last week in my business? What went well? What went, not so good? And how do I want to feel next week in my business? So do I feel like I want to push forward with that particular area? And to me, it's all about how you feel, not necessarily, because let's face it, if you have your own business, or if you're thinking your own business, think of having your own business, or even in your life, even if you in a as an employee, it's still good to say how you want to feel, I think, rather than just ticking things off. And I do the same with at the end of the month, I'll look back on that last month and I'll think of 3, all the things that I've achieved and that could be anything. That could be, you know what, I managed to cook some great meals a few times a week for family or whatever. Because I think I always sometimes think, oh my God, what have I done last month? What have I done? I haven't done that. But then when you really actually think, it doesn't. Everything doesn't have to be smashing business goals, smashing it at the. It could just be that, I don't know, you've just felt at
Just
peace with
everyday
yourself.
normal
Yeah,
things.
you've just felt. Yeah, you've just felt at peace with yourself. You've been a great friend, and you've caught up with your friend. You've kept in touch in a really good way. You've been there to support someone. And I think we get a lot of the time a bit wrapped up in achieving, when actually, as I saw on Instagram recently, a really great post, it was saying the world doesn't need any more successful people. It just needs more kindness.
Yeah.
You know, which it kind of does really now, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then when you told us about you create how you felt last 3 months or last month and how you doing now and how you would like to feel next month, would that be related to the moon cycle? Would you, when you do that, would you read this horoscope and everything and then apply that on your
So
goals? How does it work?
it's so I'll give you an example. So this moon cycle is asking me in my personal chart under this Scorpio season moon to think about how I show myself to the world, type of thing. So I think that so there's questions that I haven't done yet, which it will probably explore. You know, am I being open in my relationship? Should I be spending a bit more time with my kids? Or it could be anything. It's whatever comes up. And I think the fact that I don't get up in the morning and go, right, okay, let's be more. It's not like that. It's just, I think the fact that you've written about it and journaled about it, it becomes it enters into your consciousness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it just makes you think. And I think that's the important thing, that you've spent the time, you've invested like, you know, that hour. I sit in my bed and do it, and just answer these few questions that it's talking about. And next, each moon cycle, each different moon will bring up different things. I don't know all those, but that's why I use the workbooks. Do you know what I mean? So you should try them. I think you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I've just remembered, instead of having a to-do list, let's have a to-be list.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think what you're saying is like, instead of like this achieving smashing goals, we need to be more connected how we feel about with us. Yeah, so that's really, really interesting thing. So like, this is about your passion. If money was an object, what would you do every day?
If money was no object,
Because lots of people, that's the only thing people.
I kind of feel like I'm getting to that point in terms of, that's what I've been trying to do with my business. So I I love helping people. I really, really love helping people. I love products. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed making things. So really, for the past 25 years, I've been making things for big retailers. I may not be physically making them with my hands, but I've been designing them and developing them, and then communicating with a factory to make them. And I thought I'd kind of fallen. I thought, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't want to do it anymore. And actually, it wasn't the fact that I was done with making things. It was that I wasn't making the things that I wanted to make with the people that I wanted to make the things with. So I'll give you an example. I've been mentoring a lady who is creating a product for pregnant ladies in pain. So my speciality has been, for the past 10 years, 15 years, my speciality has been women and baby well-being. So maternity wear, newborn baby, nursery products, lounge and yoga type wear for pregnant ladies and things like that. And so this lady contacted me quite a long time ago on LinkedIn, and just like you and I have sort of met, and she asked me for some advice, and I said, yeah, of course, I'll help you. And she interviewed me and asked me all these questions, and she then asked me to coach her on getting this product to market. So what I'm doing now is getting her to a point where she can pitch for investment, because I totally believe in this product. I've become a real friend of hers. We and this is all virtually, because she's in the UK, but she's not close to me. And every time I come off that call, every time, I really am, that's really what makes me happy. It's like, oh my God, we're going to get this, let's make it work, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then another girl that I mentor, she's in a slightly different, so she came to me because she thought that she'd got a great creative job, which she'd had for, she's quite young, but she'd had for quite a while. And she came to me asking how she could be better at work, and how can she, develop herself at work. And when she spoke to me, I kind of realised that, as I had felt, although she was living this creative life that she'd dreamt of doing since she was young, it wasn't creatively fulfilling her, because it was creating things for not necessarily the right reasons or the right people, and so we got to the bottom of this, and now she's developing, she still works, but she's developing her own little stationery line. She's opened an Etsy shop, and she's really sort of enjoying herself, enjoying her creativity, which I think that is, in answer to your question.
Yeah.
If anything, that what I would like to do every day is be creative and help other people be creative, find their real true creativity.
Yeah, because you are sharing all your experiences.
Yeah, and that's what life's
over the
about,
years,
isn't it?
for the young people who's building their business or learning more, and mentoring them, coaching them.
Yeah, so people can be, because
about giving back.
So we can all live a happy life, I guess, isn't it? That's the ultimate, really.
Yeah, and then that's like makes you feel fulfilled. Fulfillment.
Exactly, because I had lost that for quite a long time, and I thought, because I think when you've wanted to do something since you're 11, and then all of a sudden you think, I don't think I want to do this anymore, that was quite probably one of the reasons, part of the reason I felt so low, all this combination of all these different things, and also quite fearful as well, because you think, well, if I've done that, what am I going to do now if I don't want to do what I've always wanted to do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where the thinking comes in, the deep thought.
Yeah. So if I go back, like at the beginning when we first met, I've asked you, what's the most favorite quote? And you said, we are all broken. That's how the light gets in. It's by Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah.
Why is it your favorite quote?
Okay, so I have to say that I have a lot of quotes. In fact, I have to say that quote I don't know whether you use Pinterest. So when I was going
Not a lot.
through,
Yeah.
so on there's a lot of quotes, a lot of, and when I was going through some of my darkest days, I would have you can create like secret boards on Pinterest, and I would have a lot of quotes on there just to keep me going. And sometimes I'd just, when I was low, I'd just go through these quotes because, yeah, I love words and I love, yeah. So picking one quote was quite difficult, but the reason why I like that is because I think that you have to find that the broken bits in order to get to feel better. In my experience, I've had to go through the broken side of my personality, thoughts, whatever you want to call it, in order to find the good bits. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, there's that whole thing with spirituality where they say, in order to find the light, you have to go through the darkness and stuff like that. So that's where it comes from. But I think we all are. I think it's also an acknowledgement that, you know, some people have said to me on, say, Instagram, when I've wrote things down and I've sort of been, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm a bit frail. And they're like, but you've achieved so much. Like, and it's like, everybody is broken. Don't think that you aren't if you're feeling that way, do you know? Because we all have doubts. We all have these fears. It's natural. That's absolutely natural.
Yeah, and everyone's exactly the same boat, I guess. Just
Yeah,
different
I think
areas
so.
of doubt and
Yeah.
So talking about Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
you are a passionate photographer, aren't you?
Yeah, I've always liked photography. Probably from, again, my sort of fashion background, reading Vogue magazines, all that kind of stuff. And photography I've always said to myself that I would do a course when I'm retired, when I get old. And earlier this year, I decided that I wasn't going to wait until I got old. So I did a course, and I started to put the work on Instagram, and it's kind of like my little creativity where it's just for me. There's no client, there's no rules, it's just whatever I want to do, and that's really comforting for me. I love to do it. I find it I could spend hours doing it. It's that, like we said earlier, it's that lost in the moment type of sort of thing. So yeah, I am quite passionate about it.
Yeah, because I can totally feel it when I'm going, because I went through your Instagram posts and I can see, because it's so relatable, and I can see, like, when you do that, you are in flow.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's really nice to say, because that's how I feel. And I think the other part of it is I'm a really impatient person, and it is one, admittedly, it's not something I'm proud of, but I am impatient. So a photograph is instant. It's a creative instant, and I think that's why I appeal to it as well, because I can take a photograph, and I'm never planning ever to be a photographer, so I don't know the technicalities of it, but it's very instant to me, and that really feeds my impatience, which I think, finding your what is your creative thing is so amazing, isn't it? Whether it's baking, I mean, my daughter loves baking, she lights up to bake. So I think whatever your creative outlet is, when you find it, it's fantastic.
Absolutely, yes. Because and then you all those good energy will go to that thing you're creating, and then people who's reading it or watching it or whatever, they can feel it. That's how people know you were in flow.
Yeah, I'm glad you say
feel
that, because
good.
that's how I feel about energy. I feel like if you put something into, and going back to products, you can sometimes you look at a product, if it's like a handcrafted type thing, you can feel this energy, and that's because someone's put the love into it, as opposed to something that's been
like in machine, like
well,
100
not even
or
machine,
200.
but like if somebody's just been doing one bit of it and passing it on, doing the next bit, there's not as much love in that as somebody who's created something, the whole thing. And I think
from start to finish,
that is the difference between product that will sell well, product that will make people feel good, and all the rest of it. You know, that's the future of retail, that type of product.
Yes, I can totally relate that. So I can't believe it's 5 to 8. So what would be your message to our viewers, and what impact would you like to have?
What would be my message? I always say it because sort of well-being has become my passion, and I would say take time out for yourself. However, you know, and I think I can't relate to. It's the same for men, not just women. Don't let invest in yourself. That's my message. Invest in yourself, whether it's time, money, and invest in you, not just things around you. Yeah, that's my message.
Yeah, invest in yourself. Not clothes, nothing. It's
Not
just for
clothes,
you.
not big house. Invest in you. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's a great message. So where can people find you?
So I hang out on Instagram pretty much every day. I'm afraid to say. I am the Thoughtful Rebel, and yeah, I find Instagram a really great community. I've, been on my own, working from home, particularly after my divorce when I really was on my own. I found some great friends. I've even met people and been out for dinner. A girl that we met, and we're now real life friends. So for me, Instagram is not I don't see social media as a bad thing. I think it's how you relate with it and how you so that's where I hang out.
So Instagram is the main place.
I'm also on LinkedIn, but definitely Instagram is definitely where I hang out with my sort of creative community.
So I'm going to put your link.
Thank you.
If people likes it, they can follow you and then
That's amazing.
You. Yeah.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it today.
So
been
this
really
brings
good.
our conversation to an end. Thanks very much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you on I'mPossible conversation and listen to your life story. So thank you.
Thank you, Suke. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
So